Right, let's take you live further afield now. It's day 286 since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia says it will not withdraw from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which has been occupied by Russian forces since March this year. This has sparked concerns, of course, of a nuclear disaster, and our correspondent Sarah Coates is keeping an eye on the story, and she joins us now live from Kyiv. Sarah, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Just firstly, in terms of the fact that there's been new missiles that Russia has apparently released on Ukraine, what has been the international response to this? Because they've been saying that Russia should be sanctioned.
Certainly, those calls keep coming out from the international community. We are today being told to stay very close or in proximity of bomb shelters, given that there could be a third wave of rockets come over Ukraine today. Now, yesterday we spent a lot of the time in bomb shelters. It was shortly after lunchtime that Russia unleashed this first barrage of rockets right across the country, air raid sirens ringing out. This first wave was designed to sort of cripple Ukraine's air defence systems, while there was then a second wave which was directed at energy infrastructure, which is a tactic that the Kremlin has really been employing for the last sort of few weeks, or just over a month rather. Much of the country is now without power and in darkness, and I'm sure you can see how cold it is here with the snow behind me. So a lot of people are really suffering at this time. Now, yesterday these barrages of rockets, they came over following a number of drone attacks deep into Russian territory. Now, military analysts are seeing this as a potential turning point or a new tactic here in this war. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense, it is coming out to point the finger at Kiev, as is a senior Ukrainian military commander there, an unnamed person. So also this morning, there was another drone attack. This one wasn't deep inside Russian territory. This one was just on the border with Ukraine in a place called Kursk, and we are seeing visuals on social media there of what looks to be an oil tanker on fire with big plumes of smoke rising into the sky. Now, just quickly, the UK Defence Ministry, it has come out to release a statement saying that if this was a deliberate attack, it will probably consider them as some of the most strategically significant failures of force protection since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So, you know, these are really significant developments, given that if indeed it was Kiev that flew these drones rather 600 kilometres from the border into Russian territory, it could really be a tipping point there.
My understanding is that today is the day of armed forces of Ukraine, and there's been warning that Russia may launch new missiles in that country.
Yes, certainly. Look, we're being told by security intel on the ground that a potential Russian strategy could be 2 days of bombing, 2 days not on and off like that. So yesterday, as I mentioned, we had this 1 day of bombing, and given the significance of that day and also this drone attack, which, you know, is being attributed to Kiev this morning, it is very likely that we could see further attacks right across Ukraine today. Now, we did see shelling in the southeastern region of Zaporizhzhia a little earlier this morning, and this region, it's really been bearing the brunt of many Russian attacks over the last few months. Now, this, of course, is where this nuclear power station is, which has really been causing a lot of global concern. Russia's been holed up there inside this plant, storing ammunition, storing heavy weaponry for the last, for months rather, since this invasion began. And on the 2nd of December, earlier this month, Rafael Grossi, the head of the Iaea, he actually came out to say that he's pretty confident of reaching an agreement with the Kremlin by the end of this month to set up, as you mentioned in that lead there, a buffer zone around the power plant. But that now seems, following yesterday's developments, that it could be out of the question. We've heard the Russian Foreign Ministry come out saying that Russian withdrawal from this nuclear power plant is out of the question, and so is the transfer of control of this plant over to a third party. So, given that, it is pretty worrying for the international community, which has been pretty stressed out, to say the very least, of a potential nuclear disaster there.
Tell us a bit more about the significance of people calling for Russia to vacate, or Russian troops to vacate Zaporizhzhia and that power station. I believe it's because it's a nuclear power station and this is where troops are currently storing weapons.
Exactly. As I said, you know, they've been holed up there inside this nuclear power plant since about the second month of this invasion. We're now into the 10th month of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and security facilities there are really in a worrying way. As you mentioned, heavy weaponry and artillery inside a nuclear power plant certainly can never be good. And this is why we're hearing all of these strong calls from the international community and also the head of the Iaea there, Grossi, to really get in there and do something very, very quickly to try and avert a nuclear disaster, which, you know, as I said, this is a region that has been under heavy shelling now for a very long time. And Zaporizhzhia is currently without power and cut off from water, the same as the southern port city of Odessa following these military strikes yesterday.
Sounds quite concerning. I hope you stay safe there. That is Correspondent Sarah Coates joining us from Kiev in Russia.